I want to go over demand and supply, which is in chapter 3. As I may mention previously, this is a review for those of you that have had our Econ 210, our microeconomics. So just bear with me, bear with the video. For those of you that have not had micro, and this is the first course in economics, that's one of the reasons why I go through demand and supply to kind of bring you up to speed. So when we talk about demand right off the bat, we refer to it as law of demand. And as you can see, the graph that I have price on the y-axis and demand here on the x-axis. And the law of demand has a downward sloping line to it. And that simply tells us that there's an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. That is, if we go, say, at point A, right, on the graph, we have $4, and our quantity demanded is 4.5. So therefore, if the price, for whatever reason, would go or rise to 7, we can see that quantity demanded will decrease to 2, i.e. there's a change in quantity demanded. Now, you got to be specific. In other words, what we're talking about here, when we're talking about a change in price, the consequences of that price action is referred to as a change in quantity demanded. Quantity demanded. So we go from one point to another. We'll say on the original demand curve, we're talking about something's going to happen, of course. And that something is a change in quantity demanded. So the law of demand simply tells us that if we increase price, quantity demanded will go down. If we decrease price, quantity demanded will go up. Kind of makes sense, right? In other words, from the standpoint, if you buy a product, you buy more of that product, undoubtedly, if you can buy it for a lower price. Main thing here, once again, is when we're talking about a change in price on that original demand curve, we're talking about a change in quantity demanded. So let me go down here, and once again, I'll have this this document, this file, up on our site. Now, we just got done talking about price. We also have what we refer to as some non-price factors of demand. Non-price factors of demand, or determinants of demand. I usually like to refer to it as non-price because we just got done talking about consequences of changing price from one point to another. So you can see here our non-price factors would include income. Okay, income. Well, if I make more money, right, I will probably end up buying certain goods that I would not purchase previously if I did not have more money or more income. Taste. Man, taste. I just have to have that Beamer. So therefore, something's going to happen. Again, we're not talking about price here. These are non-price factors. Income, taste, expectations of changes in future prices. Well, that's quite obvious, right? If you think the price of something that you want to buy is going to be higher tomorrow, what are you going to do today? You're going to go out and buy it today. Or if you have price of related goods, substitutes and complements, it's going to cause something to happen. And that something is going to cause the demand curve to shift. And the fifth one is number of buyers in a specific market. Number of buyers. Well, if you have more buyers, okay, you're going to talk about an increase in demand. So when we're talking about, say, demand one here is the original demand curve. So when we're talking about these non-price factors, I have more money, income. Well, guess what? there's going to be a shift in our demand curve, or what we refer to it as a change in demand. So when we talk about a change in demand, we're talking about we're going to have a movement away from the original demand curve, either to the right or to the left. Well, in the case of income, right, more money, more income, you're going to shift to the right. If you would have less money, you're going to shift to the left. Taste, hey, I just got to have that Beamer, or I just got to have whatever I want. The demand curve will shift to the right, so there's a change or an increase in demand. Okay, so non-price factors, we're talking about a change in demand. Once again, if we expect prices to be higher in the future, we're going to have an increase in demand. That would mean that the original demand curve is going to shift to the right. So keep that in mind. In other words, we have these non-price factors, and non-price factors will cause the original demand to shift to the right or to the left, depending upon if I have more income, i.e., my taste, I really got to have that car. Prices are really going to go up in the future. I better buy it now. Price of related goods, substitutes, and complements. That will cause my demand curve shift right or to the left, depending upon the circumstances. And of course, more buyers will cause an increase in my demand curve to the right. Less buyers, of course, will cause this original demand curve to shift to the left. So that's demand. That's my demand, right? So from the standpoint of change in quantity demanded and change in demand, for some reason, if students have a hang-up, it's right here. As I said, price change of a good will result in a change in quantity demanded. That simply means if I go from that one point on my original demand curve to another, we're talking about a change in quantity demanded. And the non-price change will cause a shift in demand curve, i.e. the entire curve will either increase or decrease. The line will move. So keep that in mind when we look further into demand and supplies. What are we talking about? A price change, or are we talking about a non-price change? So the terminology is important. When we look at supply, that's our supply line or supply schedule, we see the supply curve is upward sloping. That means there's a direct relationship between price and quantity produced, which makes perfect sense, right? In other words, as a business person, if you can get more money for what you're selling, guess what? You're going to increase production. So we go from point A to point B on the original supply line, right? What's going to happen? Quantity supplied will increase. So there's a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. So once again, I'm just emphasizing that quantity supplied, just like I emphasize price and quantity demanded. If I go from point A to point B, or point B back to point A, it's a change in quantity supplied. When we look at non-price factors, just like we had non-price factors when we talked about demand, right? We have three: technology, resource prices, and number of producers. So we have, we'll say, the original supply line, blue here. Technology. Well, I think I explained that one in the previous video last week, when I isolated and I said, well, guess what? Electronics, right? Calculators, computers, TV sets, whatever it is, electronics. What has come with technology? We have increase in technology. Guess what? We're going to have a shift to the right. We're going to have an increase in supply. Resource prices, right? If our resource prices, we're going to have to go out and acquire resources in whatever we're producing. And if those resource prices are down, when we go out and acquire resources, right, we're going to pay less. So therefore, right, if my budget is finite as such, with my limited budget or my finite budget, I'm going to be able to buy more resources if those resource prices are dropping. Likewise, on resource prices, if my resource prices go up, we'll say like oil or whatever it may be, I'm not going to have as much money to acquire those resources, so I will have a shift to the left, or I'll have a decrease in supply. So, shift to the right, or an increase in supply, or a shift to the left, a decrease in supply is caused by these non-price factors. And of course, the number of producers. If I have more producers in the market, that's going to cause an increase in supply. Less producers cause a shift to the left. So as I talked through from the standpoint of demand, we have price and we have non-price. Likewise with supply, we have price and non-price factors as such. So let's kind of look here, a change in supply versus a change in quantity supplied. I want to go through here. Let's say we know what equilibrium is, okay? Equilibrium is nothing more than demand equals supply. Demand equals supply. So at this particular point, kind of looks like we have what? 5 and 5. 5 and 5. So when we have an equilibrium where demand is equal to supply, you might say we have a meeting of the minds. And all markets, as indicated here in the graph, strives for equilibrium. That's the beauty of a market economy. A market economy, from the standpoint, always strives for equilibrium. So, what I'm pointing out here, any price, right, any price, as I mentioned here, any price above equilibrium results in a surplus. Supply is greater than demand. So, we have an equilibrium at 5. Let's look at what happens if price is 7. Well, if price goes from 5 to 7, what happens to demand? Well, our quantity, demanded, will go from 5, we'll say, to 3, which makes perfect sense. Law of demand, there's an inverse relationship. So as we go out of equilibrium, right, we're talking about a surplus. Well, from a producer standpoint, right, in other words, this is what's going to be supplied. What's my quantity supplied? Oh, my quantity supplied is what? 7.5. So, supply is greater than demand. Once again, any price above equilibrium will be a surplus. Any price less than equilibrium, let's assume we go to $2, right? Well, at $2, 5 to 2, my quantity demanded is going to be 8. Makes perfect sense once again, right? Lower the price, I'm going to buy more. So quantity demanded goes down. What about from the producer, supplier standpoint, the manufacturer? Well, wait a minute. 5, 2, I don't like that from a manufacturing standpoint, so I'm going to supply less. So my quantity supplied will be less. And so really that's what I'm talking about, a shortage. Any price less than equilibrium, my demand, right, my quantity demanded, will be greater than my quantity supplied, so I have a shortage. So we have surplus, right, when the price is above equilibrium, and we have a shortage when the price is less than. So something will happen in a free market, in a market environment, in a market economy. Markets will always strive to get to equilibrium. Surplus, they'll strive to get back. Well, how do we get back to equilibrium as such? Well, it's going to have a price impact, right? We got to get back to 5. Or if we have a shortage, how are we going to get back to equilibrium? We have to what? Increase price. So that's what I wanted to go over as a kind of as I said, from the standpoint if we're looking at demand and supply. For some of you that have had micro, this is a simple review. For those of you that have not had a micro course, you may want to go back and really review this video, review the document that I will have up on our site, and just really pay attention and read through chapter 3.